Hello and welcome to the TechBytes audiocast. My name's Tim and I'm from the TechBytes blogazine, and with me is Dr. Roy Shestowitz from the TechBytes website.
It's Friday night and I'm gonna get sauce. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. He tried to boss me and was outbossed. I fought the troll and the troll lost. I fought the troll and the troll lost. Underneath his creeper bridge, hoping goats will cross. Quoting Ashcroft and Tom Ridge, I fought the troll.
Right, hello and welcome. This is episode 32 of the TechBytes audiocast, and it's Monday, February the 21st. Tonight you've got me and Roy. Gordon's not here, unfortunately, but regardless, we'll crack on. Roy, I understand that you're going to start us with the topics of the day. So, because we haven't had a chat about what we're talking about, this is going to be a complete surprise for me. So, over to you, Roy, and the first topic, please.
Well, every show that we've done so far, I don't think we have any exception. We tend to go through topics as we speak, so we don't actually have anything prepared or any outline of topics to go through. One thing I did yesterday, which I'm extremely pleased with, is I finally got to explore some of the options in KDE, and Lex KDE, in fact, specifically with KWin, which is the window manager of KDE. And what I found is you can do quite a lot of things with translucencies. Since version 4.4 or thereabouts, you can just make almost anything translucent, and you can define the conditions by which the system determines, the level of translucency of menus and titles and inactive windows and, active windows and inactive windows, and as you move between them, you can have a fading effect. So I've been really enjoying that since yesterday when I was playing with it. I had lots of spare time. And this also resembles what KWin used to be like in KDE 3. About 5 years ago, when the translucency bits were just quite new in the desktop environment. And I've been showing it to a few people since then, and they're pretty impressed with it. Of course, version 4.6 is out now, and as far as I know, now you can make complete windows have the kind of an arrow type effect, like you did have in Windows Vista before. Some people will say, oh, KDE is a ripoff of Vista. That's the first thing I thought. But then again, of course, lots of people will tell you that KDE predated lots of the things in Vista and in Windows 7, and they were probably just inspired or copying or looking around and shopping for ideas in Linux to try and find something which wasn't yet extremely widespread, but was already established, and there was a working implementation to use as a reference. Of course.
Well, I think I said last show, warming to KDE. I remember it wasn't that long ago, maybe 6-7 months, where I thought shifting to KDE would be a complete, it would be a complete no-no. I do like KDE. For me, and this is a very general comment, and I haven't spent a lot of time with KDE, so I might be completely uninformed, but GNOME is a lot simpler, and it's very much in your face, whereas KDE has too many options for someone like me who has less and less time, as it happens over the last few weeks, to sit down in front of the computer and tweak my desktop. That being said, I've also moved, though, towards liking my iCandy. There was a time, probably about this time last year, where the thought of iCandy was it horrified me, and I'd try to avoid it as much as I could. There was a couple of things like the Desktop Cube and the and things like that, which I liked, because I find Desktop Cube very handy for just spinning around and choosing which set of applications to use. And but now I find myself tinkering a little bit. I've run the Emerald Windows Decorator, and I think we discussed 2 or 3 shows ago about the problems that I'd noticed with playing video files sometimes, and
I tried to install it about 3-4 years ago, which was extremely new at the time. The way back then you had to install that by not just getting the packages, but maybe even to define some settings and alter a few settings files manually, actually going to text files and doing so. It was a very new package, and I was hoping it would become part of the window managers at some stage, and something you can just click, just tick a box to make it work. To a certain extent, it actually does work. Now, with KDE, if you wanted to make things translucent just at the top of the menus, you can do that. I mean, I have this enabled right now, and I also enabled the spinning cube, which I didn't do before because I chose the fade effect. It's just I don't like waiting for the cube to turn around if I move between desktops too much. But of course, one of the first environments in which I used to do virtual desktop was Flexbox. We just had a new release, which I think is 1.3. I'm not sure if you've noticed that. Nobody has noticed that. I think you would have if it was 2001 maybe. But even the author, the person who released it, hasn't quite made the announcement a separate page. You just basically put an announcement saying, this is out. You obviously weren't expecting that. I can't remember the words, but there was no indication it was about to be released. And of course, it isn't being released too often because not many people use that. And it just had me think back about, the days when we had all kinds of reasonable choice beyond KDE and GNOME. Lots of people used OpenBox, and even XFC seems to be decreasingly used. I don't know of any big distros using it now.
I mean, the last time I used that was Wolvix, and that was going back now maybe a year and a half. That was the last time I remember using it on a regular basis.
ZenWalk has been pretty quiet. This was one of the leading distros at one stage.
Yeah, that was strange. I was thinking that a few months back because I covered ZenWalk. I've covered a few versions of ZenWalk on the site, and I used to hear quite a lot about it. Now I'm hearing a little bit less. I don't know whether that's because everybody's so happy and it's so perfect. I've got to keep meaning to check out the latest release, but it's one of those things which finding the time to sit down and look at it properly is growing increasingly more difficult. Just to say on the desktop cube though, I find it. People say it's eye candy. People say it's surplus to requirements and it's just a bit of fluff. But I find it very useful because I use it with my middle mouse button. It's activated via the middle mouse, and I can spin the cube around with just by moving the mouse left or right or up or down or whatever. And for example, if I'm running the Amiga emulator, which I often do because I'm messing around with a little bit of coding on the Amiga from a blast of my past, I'll have the Amiga emulator on one of the desktops maximized, and I can spin between that and maybe IRC and whatever's going on in my main desktop, as I call it, desktop one. And I think it's fantastic, very, very useful and very fluid. It's got a sort of psychological thing for me, whereby it just feels natural to have a cube with 4 different faces, 4 different desktops, which all have different types of packages on. For example, I might have my email and all that type of thing on one desktop, and my main packages that I'm running up my word processor, my web browser would go on another, and it's really, really handy. And I just find it very fluid, very natural to use it like that. I don't know, Roy, have you...
Just the way you perceive your... One of the things it's actually doing, which where in the past you'd have very separate desktops used independently, and the way it would be stored in your, I suppose the frame buffer or something would be different. Then you have the ability to move between desktops, or even have a window sort of stuck in between 2 desktops. So then you have more of an idea of how things relate to one another. And now what you have is a desktop where you can have several things displayed at the same time, not within the pager, but within the whole frame. And what it leads to is the need to determine which windows are visible, playing videos even when you don't watch them. This actually kind of concerns me sometimes, because what it will try and do, in case you use the scale plugin, kind of the expose type, I think that's what Apple calls that. In case you have within view all the windows from all the desktops, or if you spin the cube and you have different sides of the cube displayed at the same time, you have to have lots of activities within memory at the same time. If you're watching a video, unless you minimize the windows, and I do try to minimize them, your CPU or your hardware acceleration is going to work really hard just displaying something that's completely out of your side, a different desktop completely, which wouldn't be otherwise necessary. So unless you minimize that, it's going to take up a lot of resources, even without you quite realizing that it does that. And that's the cost of sometimes running an environment like that.
But I mean, here's the thing, because I'll have a little video playing on the in the background.